Oh man, we got tie game Gonzaga Purdue now. What's up, Brad? Thanks for joining me today. We got Fedora coming in like 5-10 minutes. Got a little Easter Sunday kind of show for you. I'm in my actual bedroom watching the game. I don't have a TV set up in my office because that'd be too distracting. But I do have the game, so I'm a little distracted because my Bulldogs have a game going on right now. But yeah,
I
man, thanks.
encouraged them to have the game on in the background, so that's his
um,
team. So
Yeah, that was my bad. I didn't even think of, you know, oh, there's the games on today, So that's my bad. But is what it is. How's it going, man?
doing good, man. Doing good. It was a beautiful day in South Carolina, and so I'm. If you're wondering, if people are wondering if I'm in a tent or something, I'm actually on my balcony with some. I put these curtains up to kind of keep the elements out.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting on my balcony right now, live streaming.
Wow,
Life is good.
that's pretty cool, man. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna let the Discord know that we're going on right now, and I don't know how big of a crowd we'll have today, but if we get 25, like I said, I was gonna give a pretty big giveaway today, but yeah, we'll see. Uh, it's hard. I've kind of done a show like this before where we talk about particular comic books. Oh man, you just got fouled. Like books that you could hold for the long haul, intrinsic value, whatever you want to call it. Because I saw that the market was kind of. I feel like the market was kind of buying again, I guess, quote unquote. But it's there's still a lot of books that are just never going to come back to pandemic levels. Interest rates are too high. The the whole this comic book character is coming to big screen doesn't really matter as much anymore. But I think people are like, shoot, I still want that book. I value it at XYZ price, or I think it's going to go up, or at least it's going to hold value. And I think that's kind of like the biggest thing for me. Like I want to buy books that hold value. This is a hobby for us. It's always fun to speculate, but I still think it's still an investable asset to go into. Um, it's just not going to grow at 5% per year like stocks do, or like housing, or any other stuff that we are into. And I know you've backed down on a lot of your consumption of comic books. Have you? What's like? Can you think of a comic book that you're like, oh man, like yeah, I want to buy back into that book. It's come down to a level that I feel comfortable with, or you're like, man, I gotta get that book. I don't care how much it is, kind of deal.
For me, it's mostly older books that I never had a shot at before.
Mm,
You
cool.
know, because I think that's where like you're saying, I think that's where the spec lies is important characters. Yeah, what's up, Crimson Terror? The Wrench Holder, Commander Cody, what's up? Um, there are still books that are important to comics, and there are still
Yeah.
characters that are important to comics, and
Hmm.
I think that's kind of where I think we rode a wave, and it's hard to get out of that. But when I kind of consider myself to have always been a bit of a speculator.
Hmm.
I've shown like I still have books that I got. I remember seeing the Black Suit Spider Man on the newsstand when I saw it, and I was like, game changer or Beta Ray Bill. And I'm like, that's a game changer, like
Hmm.
somebody else who can wield the hammer. Um, so Beta Ray Bill might show up and might not, but I still think he's an important character to comics.
Yeah.
And I think that's the angle. We have to kind of relearn, kind of get back to that, not so much. It's hard to not think about. We've been so used to thinking about that character might appear in a movie and we
Hmm.
see it peak and then drop, and it's just, I mean, I can't think of anyone who hasn't, any character who hasn't experienced that same, peaks and valleys, as when they're introduced into the MCU. I can't think of anyone who's maintained a solid value, and we almost just have to kind of eliminate the unicorn years from our mind and just, pop those years out and just kind of look at the last 10 years and kind of exclude that unicorn time of collecting when everything was just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and like a lot of very general things were happening around the world, like, the pandemic and lower interest rates, people are bored, stuck at home, all that stuff. And things have adjusted. So I think there's a lot of comic books that, like, kind of like real estate, which obviously you're a huge expert in, like, like it just was time for those assets to grow. But when it comes to like more current stuff or older stuff, I didn't have a lot of older stuff on this show today, but I had a few things. I would say, like, for me, what's having me hold on to certain comic books is the kind of okay, if I have a comic book up and I have a party, how many people at that party are going to be like, oh, I know that. That's kind of where my focus is right now. Versus like if I put it like a copy of Venom 3, first appearance of Null, no one's gonna know what the heck that book is. They're gonna know it's Venom, but they're not gonna know who Null is, right? Because Null hasn't gone mainstream yet, or he may never will. So that's kind of where I take is it a good read? Does it have pulp culture kind of significance? And is it rare? And so it's kind of one of those, like, man, that's expensive to get in. I can't get that $3 book. That's not a $3 book. That's like $100 book. However, kind of what I was saying in the beginning of the show, I'm looking, these comic books to me are either going to hold value, they'll dip maybe a little bit, just I may be wrong on some of these books, or they hopefully will rise in value just because the demand over supply will. Oh, that's a 3-pointer. We're up. Will supersede the supply. So Mojo Quid, what's going on? Good. Very nice to see you in the chat here. We got 5 live, just kind of trying to kill time before we start this show. I started a little early, so I apologize, but I kind of want some time with just to kind of get kind of your opinion, Brad, or like kind of where you're at as far as the market's concerned and stuff. I mean, I would say so far 2024 has been a really fun year, honestly. You suggested a couple of books to me, and I've kept up on them, man. And like I've like kind of what you're saying earlier, like I've kind of getting back to the basics of comic books. You read them, and in the Discord we were kind of having a chat about just the lack of good stories in comic books. But I think that was 6 or 8 months ago, because every book I've read, whether it be Marvel, DC, whatever, it's good stuff, man. I think I've asked this before, but I'm gonna ask you again. Like, what's a new book of 2024 that either new series or just a new writer that you've been picking up lately?
I like that the One Hand and the Six Fingers. That I had pulled the One Hand because I like Ram V a lot. Ram V is one of my favorite writers, and I'm reading Detective Comics, which he's been doing, and it's very cerebral, psychological. It's not. I don't think he's an easy read. He builds his stories, and but it's been enjoyable, and it's been interesting. And when I pulled the One Hand, I didn't realize at the time that the Six Fingers was from the other perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar story, it's connected. Those 2 books are connected. So, but I've enjoyed both of those. The Ultimate stuff has been really good. Spider-Man, I'm reading that, and just kind of looking over my pull list. It's mostly stuff that it's stuff I'm reading. It's stuff I want to read. I picked back up on Ghost Rider again. I love that last run, and I picked back up on it again, and that's been good so far. What else? The Avengers,
Infinity.
Yeah, the what is that? The Chip Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky
Twilight.
Avengers.
Twilight. I'm sorry, Twilight.
Avengers
Yeah.
Avengers Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
That one has been that one's really good. That one's really, really good.
Mm.
I'd put that one on my list, and I missed a book somewhere, so I'm scrambling trying to go back and track it down. But those have been good, and that's mostly what my pull list is now, is stuff that I'm interested in reading.
Yeah, you just said it. Like if I look back at my pull list from 2021, 2022, which seems like such a short time ago, which in reality, like 2 years ago, is kind of a long time. It was a lot of spec, man. I'll be honest, man. Like I like everyone else, I was specking on that new appearance of a Star Wars character or whomever. I was doing the FLC thing and whatever. Jeremy Adams Green Lantern is good. I gotta try DC, man. I looked at the DC rack the other day and I just couldn't find anything that I knew I or thought I would like. But I'll check that out, man.
I'd heard that Penguin series has been really good. I don't know, Cody. I know you do some DC stuff. I don't know if you're reading Penguin, but I've heard a couple of shows that I watch. They've mentioned that. I have not been buying it. I don't.
Huh.
I think we're still. I think it's maybe 10 issues in or 9 issues in, somewhere around there. But I'd
Well,
heard that one was good. I've not read it.
I mean, and Batman's consistently been really good. That's Chip Zdarsky, right? Again, yeah, Chip Zdarsky's writing
Yeah.
that as well. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, like I looked at my pull list and I'm like, this is all like, I'm not reading Miles anymore. I just don't like the story. Nothing against Miles at all, obviously, because you'll see the list later. But yeah, my pull list is like kind of all the fun titles out there. The One Hand, what you just mentioned, and what was the other book that I picked up recently that I was like, oh, Incredible Hulk. And again, you'll kind of see some of them. Yeah, Hulk's been really good, man.
I'm
Really
pulling
dark.
that one too.
Yeah, very, very different story. The last issue was kind of like lame, but number 9 was really good. So anyway, that's but we're not talking about reading so much today. We're more talking about like just comic books, either to let go of or sorry, to keep and kind of go in the future. Hope you guys like the list today. It was there's some repeats from like past kind of shows, but it's hard to kind of like not repeat is what I've kind of found. I don't know if I'm just like linear when I'm thinking about stuff or like what, but it's just kind of hard to not focus on these specific like books that I've repeated, because it's still to this day, over a 2-year period or whatever it is, like it's still being consistent with what I think is like my theory or my thesis on like what's going to keep a book above water and stuff. So
I don't know anyone who follows you on Instagram. I don't think they will accuse you of being linear, because some of the stuff you share that you find on eBay that's selling, that's just like this random stuff. I'm like, where in the world did he get that from? But
did you
that's,
see
yeah,
did you see the wig that I put on my Instagram
no,
the
I
other day?
haven't seen that. Jeez. Yeah, I
Oh my
haven't.
god.
There was
Let
something you
me
shared though that blew my mind. I can't remember what it was, but there's like some really random. So yeah, I don't think you have to worry about people accusing you of being linear when you're. And shout out to Street Food is good. Thanks for hopping in. We appreciate it.
check this out, man. Hold on.
Qatar,
Qatar alone.
appreciate you hopping in.
What's going on? Yeah. Thanks for saying what's up, man. Um, hold on 1 second, man. Look at this. This is the other day. And like, so I'm not a Supreme freak, but I have the app on my phone. And whenever they come out new stuff, I get a notification. I just always am curious of what they have. If you guys don't know what Supreme is, like it's a skateboard brand, pretty high end. They do like limited drops. It's pretty cool, but I haven't bought anything on Supreme in a long time. But this is their latest drop, and it went for $1,000 retail. And here's the crazy thing: this is selling for 3 times. So if you're able to get this, yeah, Mason Margiela Supreme wig for $1,398 is flipping for 3 times.
Sold out.
Sold out. That is selling for $4,000 on whatever other like app you can think of. What's up, Dak?
What's up, Dak?
Can you freaking believe that?
Like, is
I
there
don't know.
pandemic money still floating around that we don't know about? Is somebody Is the government sending checks out for something that we
I don't know,
that we
man.
missed? Or
I don't
uh,
know.
geez, that is bizarre.
Oh gosh, yeah, I was cracking up when I sent this to the fellas, but oh, this is my
Tuesday.
filter. You see,
I saw that on Facebook of all places. I'm like, he actually posted it on Facebook.
I didn't mean to do it on Facebook. Man, those filters are got me crying, man. All right,
Do you
enough of
wish
that.
do
What's
you
that?
wish you could grow a goatee like that?
You know what? I'd be curious if I could, or what it would actually feel like. But I like my clean shaven look, and wifey does too. So, oh, what's up, Bronze Age nerd? What's going on? We're just being random right now, Bronze Age nerd, until we get into the show. But yeah, dude. So, Dak, here's the weird thing about that wig. Where's the logo? Like, how do you see like it's a Supreme wig on the wig? I don't know, but
There's
if
got
it
to be
was
a
super.
tag on the inside or something, doesn't there?
Yeah, Chad Bird the nerd. I don't know, man. It's really fun. Chad Bird the nerd. I know, seriously, man. But yeah, if you guys are joining us a little bit late, we're still waiting on Fedora. He might still be working at the shop that he works at, but I had Brad come on. Thanks again for coming through, Brad. I got the Gonzaga game on the background. Bronze Age nerd. I don't know if you're a Gonzaga fan, but they are playing the 1 seed in Purdue, and Zach Edey and his second round talent is on display right now. That's kind of a little jab at Zach Edey. But yeah, just the top. There's more than 10 actually. 3 to 5 year intrinsic value, in my opinion, on these books. It's this is just my commentary. I don't take it as Bible, but this is kind of my thought thesis with these books was one. All of these books have some type of rarity in it. There is a cult following, or it's spilled over into like pop culture with like kids, with everyone. And a lot of these books are pretty expensive. I don't know if you'd find like any cheap deals on this unless you found it somewhere. But going through this list, I didn't know a lot of these books existed. I just kind of did a random search based off of the criteria that I used. So Southpaw Brad, I might throw you for a loop on some of these books. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone. We got 7 live. Again, if we get 25 live, I was going to do a pretty big giveaway. So if you know someone that wants to watch the show live, we get to 25. I got a strategy guide. I got a sealed video game. I got a CGC 9.8 graded comic book and a manga, I think. Just a little package if we get that 25 as a thank you for everyone. But hit that like button. We're trying to get to 600 subscribers. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the list.
Yeah, you got time, so go tell your friends.
Yeah. All right. So first, this list kind of starts out a little easy, and then it kind of gets a little bit more crazy at the end, I would say. But Fantastic Four number 52. I could not find a 9.8 in this book, so I was like, well, what's like the 9.8 for like Bronze Age, Silver Age, I guess semi-modern age, whatever you want to call it, bronze, brass, whatever. Do you have this book?
I do not. I do not have this one.
It's probably the only Fantastic Four other than number 1 that's like wanted, as far as like the Fantastic Four books. Fantastic Four being the first family of Marvel, it just always makes me laugh because like nobody reads them, and it's just so weird why it doesn't. I don't know why the team doesn't do very well as far as readership goes, but my Raw got a crappy 6.5. I still like that 6.5 for investment purposes though, Doc Joe, and of course Doc Joe has it. Thanks for coming through, Doc Joe. We always love you in the chat. 3K, man, what do you think of that price? Do you think that's pretty fair? As far as like I know he's not in the MCU anymore, but like I just think he's like one of those forever like characters in my opinion. So, oh, you're right.
Kind of like
You're right.
yeah, that one's probably that one. Yeah, I agree with Bronze Age nerd. That one's probably important too.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I was saying earlier, where if you take the MCU out of it completely, still an important character.
Yeah.
I would be curious what you have any idea what was this going for during the pandemic?
Unfortunately, I don't have cover price anymore, but I remember 9.8 went for like 50 to 65,000. Some insane number. Don't own 8.0. I gotta just assume it was like maybe 10. As weird as that sounds, I mean that might be accurate. I don't know. That's a good question though. But I
I'm
thought,
just curious. I mean, the
yeah,
second I say take the unicorn years out of the equation, that's the question I asked. But just out of curiosity,
hmm
yeah, yeah, I agree. Bronze Age nerd.
yeah,
Um,
that's kind of why I picked it too. I mean, it's a beautiful cover, right? So
and I don't mind like an 8 or 8.5 in this, and an older important book like this. I know that
yeah,
6.5 is killing Doc Joe. That's Mr. 9.8 himself.
yeah,
Um, in the chat there. But that's
yeah,
yeah, that's it's a cool book. It's an important book, even if if you take and that's kind of what my line of thought now is books that are important in spite of the MCU.
yeah. And I think just Black Panther. If you think of like um, main characters that, like you said, the MCU and whatnot. I feel like Black Panther the movie is like a rewatchable movie, and it's a the modern stuff I don't know so much because I didn't like reading a lot of the modern stuff, but like with the rewatchability of the old movie, I still think there's like 10 years from now, like I will rewatch Black Panther. And so if you want to talk MCU kind of spec, it kind of has that consistent like kind of like, oh, it was a good movie in my opinion. Um but like I said, like kind of my thought process with this, and I didn't even think of the solid cover part, but yeah, solid cover. Um Major first appearance of a well-loved and adored character that I feel will have a consistent kind of remembrance throughout, the years and all that. So,
So Cody traded football cards for his copy. That's
that's pretty cool. Oh,
in
shoot.
2003. Wow.
And those got to be ghosts, right? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
you would think so.
Yeah. Wow. Just getting screwed over by the calls here. Whatever. That's fine. Um, I'm a little distracted, guys. I apologize. So tumbling it down from, a $3,000 comic book to a pretty safe comic book. Simpsons comics and stories. I would suggest either getting this in 9.8 direct or a really high grade newsstand. Um, quite simply because if I put this comic book up, graded in 9.8, everyone in the house is going to know what it's about. Whether regardless if you're a 6-year-old kid or a 9-year-old grandma or grandpa, everybody knows The Simpsons. This this story's been out since the mid 80s. They predicted, historical events, and I think it resonates with, regardless if you're like white, black, Asian, everyone loves this show. And it's been well written for so many years, and it's got consistently like everybody loves The Simpsons. So I think of this, having this book as a collector, it's almost like one of those books that you should have on your modern book like top 100, in my opinion. Um, the first appearance in print is Animation Magazine #1, which you've talked about in the past in other shows. But I think and again, like it's got a really cool cover too. It's very comic booky, and I think you could find this for a pretty good deal. Interesting. Go collect Tracked More 98s. They sold 2017 51,000. Wow, that's a lot of money, man. Back in 2017. So yeah, I really wonder if there was even any sales back in 2021 back to the Fantastic Four book. Huh. Um but anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry.
I do have this book, and when you talk about all that black, that would
Yeah.
if you're looking for a 9.8, that's buying it as a 9.8 wouldn't be bad unless you find a lesser copy in a dollar bin or something. I would probably pick up whatever grade I could find if I saw it, but I do have this book.
Whatchamacallit? Yeah, I mean, like, like I said, man, this is like a sweet book to have. And I think, it's one of those books that'd be cool to get autographed. The Simpsons one's arguably like a cooler cover, I would say, but this resonates to me more because I was a Bart fan. Like every kid my age when watching The Simpsons was like a Bart fan, right? But yeah, just a great show. Pop culture, obviously. I don't think you see a lot of cosplay Simpsons characters, but like, I love this book, man. Whenever I watch The Simpsons too, it's cool. That's the one show I can watch with my nieces and nephews that we can all kind of like shut up and just like talk or watch together. But Bronze Age Nerd still has his childhood copy of his. That's so awesome, man. And that's
It.
the cool
Yeah.
stuff I like.
I've got a stack.
I love it.
I've got a stack. Yeah, and Street Food has a signed copy with a Wolverine sketch.
Yeah, Bill Morrison. That's so cool,
pretty
man.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Bronze Age Nerd. That's I pulled out I went through my boxes and pulled out all the stuff that I've had consistently. That first, well, the what was it? Fantastic Four annual. That's the not controversial, but with the Gambit appearance. I had that in a newsstand. And it came and people say it's the cameo, but he's in a lot of that book. It just, they didn't mean for it to come out before the X-Men book. But I had that in a newsstand, and I was like, wow, this really, and I bought it right off the rack when I was younger, and sent it in and got a 9.8 on that. And I have no idea. None of the books that I had from back in the day are they were read and looked at, and I really admired the art, so I looked at them a lot. So I'm my childhood stuff is not in great shape, but I was such a fan. And going back to the Fantastic Four stuff, I'm guilty of that as well, and it's kind of a shame that we don't read Fantastic Four anymore, but or a lot of people don't, or it's not talked about. But I haven't read it since the 80s when John Byrne was doing it, and I just loved it then when John Byrne was doing it. That was such a good run back then. But I mean, Bart, this is one of those that you guys always talk about, that the Simpsons and stuff like that, where that multi-generational appeal. And you got, the Tuesday night show that you guys do, you're always kind of scouring collectibles to find those multi-generational collectibles that you can go after, and this would certainly be one of those.
Yeah. No, thanks, man. Don't forget the Simpsons barcode. That's right. Yeah. I do have this in newsstand. It's a pretty clean copy. I was really happy to have it. I don't know if I'm going to get it signed because I don't know who would sign it, but hoping for a clean 9.8 of that guy. But yeah, I just love the Simpsons, man. It's one of those shows that I remember going to my friend's house and watching together, with friends, on my bike or whatever, what have you. And kind of keeping again with the nostalgia / like just consistent throughout all classes or not classes, but just pop culture. Sonic the Hedgehog 290. Now, I know I was gonna pick 98, but I was like, man, I talk about that damn book too much. I love it. Doc Joe has a beautiful copy of it. Do the Bart, man. What's up? What's up, Jason? Hope you're not working too hard.
What's up, man?
Yeah. Preston Eskridge. Hey, welcome to the chat. Bronches, did you wear gloves? I read most of my copies that the colors started coming off. Oh, that's so funny, man.
That's impressive to read G.I. Joe 1 as many times as you did and still get a 9.6. That is quite impressive.
What do you think is the most read copy of a book you just freaking just read all the time?
Probably Black Suit Spider-Man issues. I was so freaking enthralled. Like the Secret Wars copy, when I saw it, I was like, holy cow. Like this is or the 252, I was like, wow, this is. I mean, I remember as a kid seeing that book. I say a kid, I don't remember how old I was when that came out, but I remember seeing that and thinking, this is important. This is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And that one I probably just scoured. I probably looked at those a lot,
Mm-hmm.
a really good bit. So I would say that Black Suit Spider-Man shook me when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say, because I just started getting like crazy into reading comic books. It's not like a worthwhile like book, but X-Men. What was it? X-Men, not Prime. X-Men Alpha. It kicked off the the whatchamacallit, the what's his
Is that
name?
Age of Apocalypse or something?
Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, I freaking loved that series, man. Like, that was the first. I bought every issue of it. I read the shit out of them. I loved the art. All the different teams, like Wolverine without a hand, that type of stuff. You guys think the Batman Hush graphic novel will be worth something one day? I think it's an important book to have, for sure. I think with Hush, if you're gonna spec like longer term, you have to get like a 9.6 of one of those really tough to find variants of that book. Just my opinion. Killing Joke,
Probably the standard comic,
yeah,
as opposed to the trade.
right,
But
yeah.
I mean, the hobby might surprise us. I mean, it might get to a point where the trades are,
Worth something
are
more, yeah,
yeah.
and like Bronze Age Nerd said, Killing Joke is always a great collection to have. Tough and high grade, but I think it's one of those books that, man, this is one of those stories that you just never forget, So yeah, LJP for sure. That's definitely a winner chicken dinner. We're about 30 minutes into the show. We got 16 live. We're almost at that 25. I really want to send out that gift for whoever, if you get 25 peeps in the chat as a big thank you. It's a really good package of stuff I put on my Instagram. If you aren't following Southpaw Brad on Instagram, Southpaw Brad down there. And yeah, just appreciate everyone coming through. Hit that like button. Tell your friends to subscribe. We're almost at 600, trying to give away more stuff. So appreciate everyone's support, and join us on a Friday before Easter. But yeah, back to this book, Sonic the Hedgehog 290. Oh, thanks, Bronze Age Nerd. I appreciate you, dog. And yeah, if you guys aren't if you guys aren't following Bronze Age Nerd on YouTube or anywhere, what are you doing? You should follow him like ASAP. I always watch his videos like on the rewind, and he's always got really good stuff. And he probably has like the best edited videos of any comic nerd I've ever seen. So little shout out to Bronze Age Nerd there. Hey, what's up, Digger Jim? Digger Jim's in the chat. Nice. I saw him on a couple lives a couple weeks ago.
Some of the most, I love his metal detect. He's also into metal detecting.
That's right.
And I love watching those.
That's awesome. Fedora's not here yet. I don't know if he is stuck on a subway or something, but so I looked up this book. It's the last issue of Sonic the Hedgehog and their amazing run of almost 300 books. It's a pretty tough book to find. There's only 298s on the census, and actually, I put an offer in, a pretty clean one. Oh, there he is. There's Fedora. Perfect timing, man. Sonic the Hedgehog 290 is what we're talking about, bro. I messaged Fedora about this. I just got this. I got an offer accepted for $100. Dak in the chat found this, I don't know where, for $1. Made me feel like crap.
That doesn't surprise me.
I know. But nonetheless, I'm happy. We'll see if I can get a 9.6 or higher.
Yeah, there was a kid who just came in. A little kid with his parents. He came in, and it was his birthday. And then he was like, yo, my dad said I could get whatever I want. Do you have Sonic comics? And then his dad was like, yo, these omnibuses are mad expensive, but it's my kid's birthday. So here we are. Yeah. So, hey, man, buy him up. That kid, when he becomes like 30, he might want to get that book. So,
yeah, because he doesn't know about it now, but he's going to know about it later, right? That's kind of my theory.
Yes. Yes.
You know, obviously Sonic has like a really huge cult following, or you know, just following in general. If Norm, I'm gonna mute you for a second. But yeah, it's yeah, it's just, you know, it's one of those things. I'll show it to you. You don't have to, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to show it to me. I just thought, this being the last issue, you know, it's a beautiful cover. I mean, it's sick. I mean, that cover is beautiful. It's rare. It's, you know, again, if I put a Sonic comic book up there, like 9 out of 10 people are going to know what Sonic the Hedgehog is on my mantle. And so, you know, this isn't really a cheap buy-in. Obviously, it's, you know, I paid $100 for a pretty near mint copy, but there's only 2 9/8 again on the census. I saw a 9/6 sell for $450, which is just crazy to me in this market. So it just tells you that there's a high demand for whatever cop grade you can get in this book. And I think it's going to stand the test of time, just for what Fedora said. I mean, he's our boots on the ground dude. So yeah. Yeah, Fedora. I didn't put Sonic the Hedgehog 98 because we talk about it too much, and I thought people would be like, "Come on, bro," you know.
One sold for $250 near mint. I was bidding for it.
Oh, really?
I had 3 people bidding on my behalf. I had 3 people bidding on my behalf, and we lost it. And it sold at for like $255 in near mint. And the highest during the pandemic, that book was selling for $750 in like very fine condition. So whoever bought that at that price, unalive yourself. That's crazy.
I feel like in 10 years, Sonic 98 could be like $1,000 to $2,000 book in 9.8. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but I just have like, just because of the money that people are paying for it now, it's gonna stay at that floor for a very long time.
Well, they just released the picture of Shadow. They just wrapped up production on the 3rd movie, and they just they released like a still image of Shadow the Hedgehog. So
yeah,
yeah, man. So I would say now is a good time to buy it. If you could get one in your net.
Yeah, it's just a tough one to have, but yeah, you're gonna hit a lot of collectors in that kind of division.
Bird, was your pickup for your PC, or what was your? Are you going to try to press it? And
I'm gonna try and press it. What's up, the Collector's Bounty? Thanks for coming through. We're good. Trying to get to that 25 mark so we can give away some
there's
big bounty stuff.
I've never seen before.
Yeah, I think Bronze Age Nerd definitely hooked us up with the plug in his Discord. So I appreciate Bronze Age Nerd. Dude, Bronze Age Nerd is in the chat.
Yo, Fedora. He's famous. He's famous. Every time I say this, he's never there, or maybe he is there, but he just don't. But yeah, I remember when I first started, like first started like looking into like what other people were collecting in the YouTube space. He was like during the pandemic. And I used to date this girl from Atlanta, and she was also getting into comics. So we used to watch his stuff together, and it was very informative. So he was kind of like my first YouTube show, or like the first person that I watched regularly outside of the small circle of the comic book store that I worked at. So shout outs for him to dropping all that information. I really appreciate you for putting out all that info. And the light is about to turn green.
Right. So all right, be safe out there. So our 3rd book today is Teen Titans number 12. I want to tell people, I wouldn't buy this raw. It's really hard to get in a high grade for like the money you're gonna buy it raw, and then the possibility of like just the way that CGC is grading and like this whole 9.9 fiasco, which I don't even want to get into. If you can get this book for like $100 in 9.8. The reason I picked him has nothing to do with spec as far as him coming into the DC universe. The reason I picked him is I don't know how many cosplays or kids that know about Joker that don't read comic books know about the Batman Who Laughs, and they like that story. That whole metal universe didn't really hit the final iteration I thought it was going to do. However, he's my favorite DC villain of the past 7-8 years. I don't know if I can say 10, but like at least 7 or 8 years, he got me back into reading DC. This book was like 150, 125 raw. I remember seeing on some Whatnot sales. I saw 9.8 go for like $700 back in the day during the pandemic. But $100, 9.8. This isn't a book I can put on my wall and people can say, "Oh, I know that guy." But maybe 4 or 5 pretty cool dudes or like younger cats can come through and say, "I know Batman Who Laughs. That's a pretty cool book." But yeah, anyway. Fedora, I'm gonna go to you real quick, dude. Like, do kids know about this book at all, or is it you got to educate them about it?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
But there was one little kid that came in today, and he was with his mom, and she was just like, "Oh, like he wants to get into comics, you know, so he wants to pick a book out." And then he was like, "I want Dark Knight Joker." And then I'm like, "What?" And he's like 5 years old, and he's like, "I want Dark Knight Joker." And then he points to the book, and it's like Joker ripping his face off. I guess it was like the Endgame book that he saw, like the trade. And then his mom was like, "Absolutely not. Go to the reader section." So I know kids know about the Joker, and I know the Bat Who Laughs is definitely like a character that people talk about and people seem to like. I don't really get it. I'm not really too much into him. I was more of a fan of the Devastator, the Doomsday Batman clone.
Oh yeah, he was cool too. Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah, so when this came out, I was like, this is silly. And then it ended up being the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
So what do I know? But I know like younger people, like people younger than me, know who he is, and they seem to like him. He's a skin in Mortal Kombat, actually.
Right.
In Mortal Kombat 1, he's a skin in these different games, so they're definitely like pushing him to like be the new guy. So, yeah.
No, it's cool, man. That's good. That's good to know that and I don't even know if they're gonna bring him back. He's kind of like in that null phase right now for me. But
I think I trust DC more with the way that they handle their villains, and like they kind of know more or less how to use them, when to use them, and because I feel like he felt like a threat, right? Like a universal threat, and toward the end, it took a lot to take him down. From what I remember, they needed all these people to get together.
Right.
Whereas Null, he kind of just went out, you know, like whatever.
Yeah, he just went out. Right.
Yeah, so I think that he's definitely going to be somebody that's going to be prevalent from like years to come, because they kind of know when to reel it in with some of these guys, where it's like Marvel, it's like when they need to like use them effectively, they kind of don't use them at all, or they use them too much. So I don't know. If I had to choose between Null or Batman Who Laughs, who had more staying power, I'd say it's pretty tough. But I'd probably lean more towards the Bat Who Laughs. That's just my opinion, though.
No, me too. Just because Null's like all encompassing. But anyway, Brad, I don't think we've talked about a lot of DC books together, but did you ever read because this is pre-pandemic stuff, so I don't know when you got back into comic books, but like
I wasn't. That's what I wasn't back in when this came out, and of course, when I got back into the hobby, it was the prices you were just talking about. You know, it was definitely a little higher than I wanted to pay, and it's interesting because exactly what Fedora was saying. You know, there's opportunity, I think, to bring him back. I mean, right now in Batman, they just had a couple issues ago, they had like all these different versions of Batman pop up in one of the issues, and I was like, God, that would have been great to incorporate him in there somehow. With all the, you know, now I don't know, it'll be interesting to see in that run how Failsafe does, like how important that run is right now. But yeah, I think they might have missed an opportunity maybe to bring him back into the fold. And I think that's where DC introduces some great characters, but it's usually a storyline, and when that arc ends, they don't really you know, they just kind of died. Now they're circling back on some characters. I mean, this is slightly off topic, but still dealing with DC. I noticed that Flatline's popping back up again, and she was first introduced in Robin book a few years ago. She's kind of got like the Punisher skull on her face, and she was a Robin villain.
Yeah, I didn't read Robin, so I don't know, but that's cool. Like
that Robin run was pretty cool. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was kind of like a tournament arc kind of thing, very like shonen jumpish. Like, oh, we're gonna be on this island and it's a tournament. We're gonna touch. So that's the kind of vibe that it gave me, but it had like an American flavor, which was different, and I thought it was pretty cool.
All right.
So I think maybe DC is learning. My point in mentioning that is that maybe DC is learning, like, hey, we're introducing some interesting characters. Let's give them some longevity so that they can build a following.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like it's like, you know, I wonder what goes to the thought process of the writers. Like they don't. It seems sometimes they just don't pass the baton very well, especially when it's a really well written story. So this one was I was 50-50 on picking this one, but I picked it because of the recognition of the character. The for right now, the lull of the uncertainty of the Blade property MCU wise. Did I say rarity array of this book? It's only 2,000 copies of this book. The potential to get this signed by Wesley Snipes. Wesley isn't getting any younger. And high grades are really tough in this book. I feel like this is again, like if I put this up on my wall, you gotta there's probably a pretty good chance that people are gonna know who that is, the actor is, and more likely they're probably gonna know who the character is. Obviously, this Blade is from a different MCU or whatever you want to call it. However, he's Blade for right now until they figure out what the heck they're going to do with the Blade movie, whether they're going to keep going with it or not. So this is why I picked this guy. I think this goes for like 50 to 75 in Raw, but I've seen high grades in 9.4 go for like 220. I've seen 9.8s, 9.6s go for around 300, and 9.8s go for up to 400 to 500 in today's market. But yeah, I thought it was just kind of a cool book. Again, it's a promo book, so it's not really, it's kind of hard to get, right? You're probably gonna have to buy it. Three-pointer. You're probably gonna have to buy it, via eBay. I don't think you can find this in any long boxes or anything. But Mr. Brad, are you Blade fan or a Wesley Snipes fan? Just curious.
I do like. I recently, I can't remember what streaming service had it, but I recently went back and started watching those the movies again. I went back and watched the first one, and yeah, I do like him, and it seems like those like the character covers. What I mean by like the live action covers seem to do pretty well. I mean, some of those are kind of tough to track down.
Right.
That might be like a digging in some long boxes kind of thing, but people tend to like those.
Yeah, the photo ones just lately, like I remember back in the day, like I would never get a photo variant unless it was like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who cares about those, when I was thinking as a kid. Fedora, man, have you seen this book ever in the shop?
No, but it wouldn't be so like it wouldn't surprise me if it was in like, because we have a warehouse type outlet set up in Queens, New York. So you guys should go check it out. And there's a lot of dollar bin stuff, and they have a fuck ton of stuff. So I mean, that's definitely one of those books that I wouldn't be surprised if we had it buried in one of those deep dollar bins, because I've seen people pull some crazy stuff when I was a customer, just hanging out with friends there. And I've seen people pull some crazy stuff when I was working there. And a lot of, like, you'd be surprised, a lot of comic shops, they don't really know about books like this.
Yeah.
And the market for comics in New York City is it's pretty high. I would say like within the New York City area that I've been to physically, there's maybe like 25 shops, 25 to 30 shops that I've been to that I know of, and that's not counting the ones that I don't know. So the odds of finding that in the wild are in New York City are pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say good luck digging if you're in the New York City area or if you live in a major metropolitan area with comic shops. Uh, I would say that's definitely something you could find. You just have to put in the elbow grease.
All right,
Like
game's
E2
over.
was saying too, like how many of those would they had to survive the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like sitting through the movie, how many of those have butter, popcorn butter stains on them and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So
That one guy in 2000 or 97 or whenever the movie came out with the bag and board, and then
right.
like has survived that. And yeah, the fact of this being high grade is really tough. But I think what the market right now is showing that there's value in those photo variants or those photo covers. So yeah, happy hunting, everyone.
Why don't they do that anymore? Just like
They
maybe I
still
don't
do it every
remember.
once in a while. They did that for the Shazam movie. Is this some other movie I
They did it
thought?
for
I can't remember.
Suicide Squad. I bought my bag and board. I'm not ashamed to say it. They did it for Ninja Turtles. I bought my bag and board. I went with my coworkers at the shop to see the Ninja Turtles movie, and they had like a promo comic. And then I pulled out my bag and board, and then everybody looked at me and just rolled their eyes, like, "Did you really bring a bag and board?" And I was like, "Yeah, like you never know."
Oh, there's a Black Widow one too. There's a Robert Downey Jr. one. I don't know if the Robert Downey Jr. one was a promo, but man, Fedora, like I'm shocked that your other homies didn't bring the bag and board like box
Hey,
and just
yeah,
like
you should have
scoop
told them
them
you
all
wanted
up.
theirs too. Like you should have taken theirs. Like, hey, if you don't want it, I brought like 10 bags and boards. I'll
Yeah.
take yours if you don't want the comic.
Right.
It seems like that would be cooler if they did it consistently, and I think that's cooler than a popcorn bucket.
I
Like
think
they're
so
doing
too.
on some of these
Yeah.
things, which is another thing that Ferd's featured, I think, on his
Yeah.
Instagram, like crazy sales.
The Transformer bucket was the most successful one I've seen so far. I have one bucket I use actually for like coins and my passports. Because like who would think they'd put a passport in well now I have to move it. Anyway, Mega Man 55. I couldn't find a CGC copy of this book. It's the final issue. So final issue again. I just loved the cover. 6,000 print run. Mega Man's obviously an iconic character. Scratch that
bomber.
last button over there. But now I was looking at first appearances in magazines, and evidently Electronic Gaming Monthly number 11 is the first appearance of him in a magazine, and his origin, some low-hanging fruit for you, is number Nintendo Power number 47. It's actually pretty cool. Inside that Nintendo Power, they give kind of a biography of every single villain of Mega Man, along with the bio of Mega Man and the Doctor and what's that. So the Dune fleshlight. Whoa, what the heck?
Is that the bucket?
That's right, the bucket. That's right.
Yeah, that's multi-purpose though.
Dude,
that's multifunctional.
That was like, I wonder when they did that bucket, were they like, yeah, we know what we're doing, or they just like didn't think of it?
I think they absolutely knew what they were doing.
They had
because
to know, man.
They want
They
people to post it on social media. So
I know, so funny, man. But yeah, Mega Man 55. Of course, Mega Man. I think this is kind of a consistent kind of theme with these picks I had. It's they're all recognizable characters throughout a lot of different genres. I didn't really base this off MCU or like appearing in a movie or going to. This is stuff that's just maybe a lot of people don't know about it. The fan base is growing or it's staying consistent, and these are low print kind of selections here. Fedora, I know you're a Sonic fan. Mega Man's kind of my Sonic, honestly. But what is Mega Man like a more do people like seek Mega Man as like the story or just like the character in your stores, or do they at all?
I think that's like a millennial thing specifically, Mega Man. Like I think like Mega Man is like a millennial thing, but I just think that Gen Z hasn't, and the gen that I guess predates that goes beyond that, they don't really know about them, and that's mainly because Capcom, they just have like, I don't know, man. Capcom is weird because they have like a lot of like really big franchises that I feel like they could really, really put fire underneath and
Mm-hmm.
introduce to newer generations, like Mega Man, like they got Bloody Roar, they have Darkstalkers, they have like all these really cool properties, but they're
Mm-hmm.
really stubborn and they kind of just always want to play it safe. And unfortunately, I love Mega Man. I love the Blue Bomber. Um, but the Blue Bomber is like people love the Blue Bomber who are older than me. My Mega Man is the Mega Man NT Warriors, the ones that would jack into cyberspace, and then he had the sword, and then he had like all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Mega Man that I grew up loving. And then there's like the MVC2 Blue Bomber. I like that one too, but the cyberspace one has like a special place with me. And I know a lot of people my age were talking about the new collection that came out, the Mega Man NT Warriors collection. That was
Okay.
for Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's weird because I know the market is there for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't like pay a 9.8 and hold on to it and expect it to appreciate because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't look like Capcom wants to do anything with the Mega Man franchise. They're just focused on like Resident Evil and Street Fighter.
That's a really good point, man. Because I feel like that way about. I didn't put any Static books on here, but I feel like Static. I've kind of made some pretty like I didn't really cover my bases on my Static call. I think I just a biased kind of like thought process, but like, I can Static reminds me of that as far as a character is concerned, where like there's such a great like character, and he was written back in the mid-90s, but from what I know, and don't quote me, but maybe chat knows this as well, but like it's so hard for them to move forward with Static, not so much because they're stubborn, but the legality of the character, and it's just really too bad because he's such a great character that DC could just really rise up on, but no, I didn't think of that part of
Listen,
the
but
kind of future or whatever.
I feel like James Gunn would definitely fight to get that character in some capacity because James Gunn is like he might not know every character, but he's a fan at the end of the day, and he's willing. I feel like he's
It's
willing to do what's right.
Well, it's a little complicated, right? Because the creator of Static died, and kind of there was a lot of just infighting with DC. So I think it's a little more complicated than that. And like you said before, man, like money talks. If it's gonna cost them $1 million, fine, they can eat that cost. But if it's like 10 million, then they're like, maybe Static's not really worth 20 million. So the numbers have to make sense too. So it's I think when it's a legal sense, and especially if someone dies and there's no real argument, like there, it makes it a little tougher. And I'm just saying it's not an impossibility, but it's just more of like it's another risk. Like when Brad and I always talk about investing, there's certain levels of risk you can take, right? And especially when it comes down to legal stuff, man, that shit's hard to like just get through because it takes time, and then the market moves so fast with everything too.
I take the Static risk over the Mega Man risk.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just me.
I think there's less hurdles though with Mega Man. Capcom's just stubborn. They just need new leadership. That's an easy fix. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's a character that could be like we're talking about multi-generational. I mean, you've got the nostalgia. It's an appealing character for younger people too. If they would do something, if they would do something with him, it seems like some of these decisions that these companies make. It seems like a no-brainer to the average fan like us.
Mm-hmm. And think about this too when you're talking about business. Like Marvel bought Disney, or Disney bought Marvel for $2 billion in 2006. Someone could be like, Capcom, you know what the hell you're doing with your property? Nintendo buys you out for $1 billion or whatever the money is, and they take all those amazing properties and make a universe out of it. Because I mean, there's still money in it, right? So yeah, I guess it's, and again, I mean, like, it just takes one smart, nerdy dude that has a ton of money and knows how to capitalize on that investment, fires all the idiots that aren't running the company correctly. Which Marvel, obviously, man, like, they were in bankruptcy before they got bought out by Disney. So, I mean, that's kind of that's a huge kind of like, possibility. But I mean, who knows? We'll see. But no, I agree. I didn't think of that kind of stance on that, Fedora, which is why I love that you're on the show. I love it. This is an easy one. I mean, like, I don't have a UF4 or 9.8 just because, like, he wasn't really like my generation. But I have a second print because I'm a collector and I like that cover better. The time to buy this was probably in like beginning of January and December. I saw one sell for $800. I think there's one on Instagram right now for like 1,100, which I still think is a little steep. But
Wait,
man, if you got
a 9.8,
it was a 9.8. Yeah, it was like Elite or one of those Instagram kind of sale places. But yeah, man, I mean, I think you'd have to be dumb to argue against this being like one of the books that it's gonna keep value. It may fluctuate, do this, but I think for $1,100, it's not a bad investment just because the iconic character, the iconicness of this character, and it's just growing. That's the key thing here, right? Like, Miles is growing. He's just a growing character in popularity amongst people. And he may not be my Spider-Man. Peter Parker's, my generation Spider-Man, quote unquote. But as far as like coolness, and I think he's like pretty tight, that could carry the mantle. Why the frick not, man? Miles is cool. Fedora, what are your thoughts, man, on this?
I know we sold
the price.
Raw. We sold the Raw at the shop for $600. It was very fine here, and it was like polybagged and everything. Guy dropped $600 for it.
Jesus.
I was showing him like everything. So then, according to him, that was like the best price he could find it at in that condition. So he thought it was a good deal. I'm not really a fan of Spider-Man. But I do know a lot of kids, when they come in, when they go to the Spider-Man section, they say Miles Morales. So
yeah,
and a lot. It's not a little bit. It's a lot of kids. It's a lot. So yeah, I would say 1,100 for at the sheer volume of children that I see come into the shop and ask for Miles Morales. They don't say Spider-Man, they say Miles Morales, which is important. I would probably say 1,100 makes sense because he's at that level now.
Yeah, and this is like the major argument about this book, and I know it's like an extremely printed book, and there's only a couple of newsstands in high grade. The one argument I would say that is possible against that, not so much against it, but the counter argument to that is the demand for Miles is just getting more and more, and there's not as many 9.8s specifically of this book. And I think the demand, and that's why a $600 raw in a poly bag went for $600 in today's economy. However, there's a risk too that this book,
it could come back at 9.6. I don't know.
It could come back at 9.6, right? Which is why I think you just might as well spend the extra $500 to get a 9.8. If the reason you're holding on to it is to sell, right? And the other thing too is, like, when's the time to sell? Can someone wait that many years to sell it when he comes to the big screen, or is that the time to sell? I don't know. I honestly don't know when the time to sell books is anymore, because like what Brad and I were talking about earlier, like, even if someone shows up on a preview, like if it's like today, man, or the other day, Captain Carter gets announced to be in Secret Wars or something. Dude, I checked the book. It hasn't moved a smidge. That is a dead freaking spec, in my opinion.
I think we spoke about this last week. I just think, like, I think the people that were in the hobby, the
Mm-hmm.
massive influx of people that we had in the hobby that were just doing all that, making all that noise,
Mm-hmm.
they're all gone, and which is there was like a CBSI like Facebook group, and then I like we dog on that place all the time.
Yeah.
But there was like this whole narrative of like, oh, buy what you like, and it's like you can't like listen, I hate that word, buy what you like, because when you buy what you like at absurd prices because you don't know anything, and then 20 years down the line you're just left with a bunch of books that you overpaid for, you're going to be bitter towards the hobby. So it's like I feel like a lot of people were quote unquote buying what they liked, and they got burned, and then they're like, fuck this, I'm leaving. So now I feel like the shift is kind of more, people are more educated and they're more calculated, because they know that a book that comes out with a trailer, that people are running out and then they're buying the book because the trailer came out, then the movie or the show comes out and it's hot garbage. So I feel like people are waiting to see, all right, how are people going to react to this book? How are people going to react to the characters? And does the character have potential? Because I mention this book all the time because it's always a perfect example. Remember Tosin? Everybody was like, oh my God, he's going to be the next hot thing. People were spending $1,200 for Raws, and then nothing ever happened with him. So
I think though that you're kind of arguing your argument, right? Because like now you're saying people are more educated, and I think now what's feeling like this newer or the newer like kind of hot book or whatever is either rarity or good story, and we've seen that with stuff. So I think like kind of what Dak and I think we all agree on this panel is the live action should just run its course, which is why I'm like, I don't even know when the right time is to like have a book or sell a book. The reason I picked this book on for the list is because if I were to put this book on my wall and I have 10 people come through, I guarantee you 90% of them are going to know what that book is. And they're going to be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
the one in 25.
Fuck the 1 in 25, man. I fucking hate that book. But it's I think so. This always happens with up and down markets. There's a huge spike and there's a huge drop. It happened with housing, it happened with stocks, it's happening with comic books right now. And housing's different, right? Because housing always goes back up because people always need housing. But when the internet bubble popped, there was pets.com or homegrocer.com, and they're gone. They're essentially bankrupt. They're never going to come back. However, Amazon is now the second largest company in the world. That was Ultimate Fallout 9.8 for $800, in my opinion, in 2002. It just takes time for some of those books to come back, right? But there's other books like Captain Marvel or Captain Carter #1 or Tosin's first appearance.
I call them the buy what you like books.
The buy what you like books, the home grocery, I call them the homegrocer.com books that just were never going to come back because that hype that was making them go up so high is no longer, it's run its course, as Dak has kind of said. So I think the movie-based spec, like Bronze Age Nerd is alluding to here, that could come back. That story could come back. But for now, what's happened? There's just too many, there isn't good writing. And I think that's what it comes down to. It has to come down to good writing. Brad, you've been kind of quiet on this subject here, but like, I just think like whenever I invest or in an investment, quote unquote, I always have a story of why I invest in that investment or that stock. If that story changes though, I have to reassess and say, I'm not going to, it's over. I got to move on to the next stock, or this investment has changed, but it's changed for the better. I'm going to buy more stock in that company. From a like investor standpoint, right? What do you think is like What's factors make you say, oh, I'm going to buy that and I'm going to spec on that, quote unquote, or I'm going to hold it for 3 to 5 years? I guess the point of this show. Now,
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just about the importance of a character in comics, as opposed to relying on them showing up in a movie. And the Taskmaster book was like a really good example of that. Everybody speculated that Taskmaster book when he was getting ready to appear in the movies, and then they totally changed the character, because that was one of the things that I think speculators who are using the MCU as a gauge for what they bought and what they sold and that kind of stuff. We never really thought about, I say I didn't really do that, but they never thought about, oh, well, the MCU is not really tied to the comics, so they could do whatever they want to with that character. They could, change
kill him off,
the gender or whatever, like they did with the Taskmaster. So I think that kind of that might have signaled an eye-opening moment for speculators who use MCU as a gauge for what they wanted to buy. Was, hey, they don't have to change a character's powers, like Ms. Marvel changed the powers, and that's like, it's totally disconnected from from what we're doing. So I tend to look at more, oh, this character has a reoccurring story, or I see a plot line that's where they're developing and building this character. To me, just seems like a stronger way to do it. I'm in this comic book universe, and that's kind of what I choose. I was guilty of oh man, I watched a show and somebody said they had an inside tip that this person's going to show up or this character is going to show up, and I was guilty of it, man. It was fun to do, but it was not the most.
You got that adrenaline rush, that serotonin, serotonin. But and everyone's guilty of it, man. Like I always try to stay like, I don't think this will hit, and I remember times where like either friends or like colleagues or people like on Instagram would be like, "You're an idiot," like don't you see what the, like, that's a first appearance of like so and so, like how could you not want to flip that? And I was like, and I I've been through these cycles, man. Like I'm 40 years old, so I've been through like 3 or 4 in my lifetime. I'm like, it's just not gonna last. Like, just like housing or mortgage rates, it's just not gonna last.
I've always tend to be like a conservative, like wait and see person, like when I'm buying like anything, and I was always like that, especially during the pandemic when shit wasn't making any sense to me, and I got caught. Like I got caught. The most conservative person ever. That's always skeptical. That's always looking. I got caught with Iron Fist 14. I overpaid for that book.
Yeah.
So I mean, it happens to everybody. But So I'm a little upset by it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. And it's like, you just learn from it, and you kind of I think you just have to move on and just kind of be like, well, I fucked up. I'm either going to sell what I can and get as much money as I can and either just keep it and go back to my normal life, or I'm going to try and, sell it or I don't know, keep the money or invest it in better stuff. Like this crazy book, Spawn 185 had this is a really tough book to have or to put on the list because it is a freaking ghost. But I forgot who sent this to me. I want to say it was like Michael Baker. But check out this, man.
I seen this. I seen that.
Now, I'm not going to get into the validity of like, oh, was it like shill bidding or whatever? Because I mean, look at the sales for this book. 9.6 goes for 900, 515 for 185. The cover is amazing. It's a Spawn book. It's a later run. It's extremely rare. I don't know if this is like a legit sale. I'm just not going to speculate on it. It's a sale nonetheless. But holy cow, $4,049.
Can you click on the bids on that?
I don't know.
Where it says 9 bids?
Yeah, let me try.
I just want to see if there's how many people it looks like were competing for that book.
So it looks like there were 5 bidders. Someone who won had 625 you know, but 10-day, kind of sale. I mean, like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. This was kind of my outlier, like, holy shit book. But yeah, I mean, I think if you bought it for 4,000, I mean, it's probably a little top heavy there, but Spawn has like stood the test of time without any live action. There was a cartoon, but that didn't really do anything for the book. It's just been one of those books or one of those characters that is in Fortnite. It's in, or I don't know if it's in Fortnite, but I know it's in
Mortal Kombat.
it's in Mortal Kombat. I mean,
Soul Calibur,
whatever. Yeah. And
Super Nintendo,
Super
Dreamcast.
Nintendo. I mean, like, this is like, he's the only character that I think has been so successful just purely based on the character. I just can't think of anyone else. And it's hard. I mean, how hard is that to do, man? He's like the perfect self-creator owned character ever. I could say that. It's because it was an independent label. It was created by arguably the greatest marker, or he's like the Stan Lee of the Todd Father, right? So I've never seen this book before in live.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Where'd you see it?
So there was so in the Astoria outlet, which is why you should check us out in Astoria, because I've seen this. We had a wall of low print Spawn books on the wall, and that was one of the books that were up there, and it was for like 200 or something like that. And I remember thinking, and the reason why I know this is because I was like, why they got all these bum ass Spawn books for this much? Nobody's gonna buy, like, nobody's gonna pay this much. And then I just I really remember looking at it and just being like, there's no way. Like, these people are out of their minds. But I guess they knew something that I didn't know.
Whoa, wait. Dak had a raw Nearman copy, sold it for 700, found it at a half price books for $40, and 98 never comes into market. Holy cow. This is why Dak is like, what do you call it? Like, he's like he finds diamonds in the rough. I don't know what you call that. He's like Indiana Jones, finding treasures and all that stuff. I don't know how he does it, but he's got like a knack for it.
He's carrying a rabbit's foot or a horseshoe or something. He
sold his soul to
stories.
No, fuck that. He sold his soul to the devil.
Stories, it seems like
he sold his soul to the devil, and that's why he's gotten so lucky. But yeah, man. I mean, like, who knows? We could be talking about this 3 to 5 years from now. I mean, like, that $4,000 price didn't seem too bad now, did it? It could be a 10K. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, but the data is there that this is a sought after book. And of course, I would have put Spawn 1 up there, but like, you should just have that book, man. That's not intrinsic. That's just more of like, you need to have that book if you're a collector. But yeah, good stuff, man.
I mean, it's not hard to believe that 9.8 sold for that much, only because I had a guy a customer from Puerto Rico came today. He didn't know any English, and I speak Spanish, so I'm the resident Spanish speaker there. So me and him were chopping it up, and he was just like, "Look, man, like, I own all the Spawn toys. I've been collecting these toys since I was a kid, but I never read the comic. So we don't really have many comic shops in Puerto Rico. So I was wondering if you could help me figure out where to start." Dude I spoke to him for a bit. He ended up buying the library edition of Volume 1, and he bought 2 signed copies of Spawn books that we had on the wall. So when I mean, like, the cult following that Spawn has, this dude never read a Spawn book, walked into a comic shop for his first time, ended up spending like $200-300 just on Spawn, just because he's like a fan. So, like, it doesn't it's not surprising to me that this low print book would go for that much in 9.8, because like, people that I don't even think he could read English, but because he only spoke Spanish, but he just wants to have this, just to say that yo, I have this. Look at this fucking signed copy. He's gonna bring it back to Puerto Rico, and he's gonna tell all his friends, like, yo, I got this shit signed by Todd McFarlane. You can't go to Puerto Rico and find that, So yeah, like it could be shill bidded, but it might not be.
I'm gonna take shill bidding out of the whole thing, man, because like that's just too deep of a dive. Like for me, man, I'm gonna 5 bids is good enough for me, and like just from the chat, I mean the money's there. And here's another thing too. I mean, Spawn fans must have money, because obviously like you're not seeing that in Mega Man or Sonic, at least today. So
I know a couple of people who read it, and people who are into Spawn are like big time into Spawn. Everybody's not into it, but the ones who are like big time into it. I picked when they just did that the gunslinger. I was reading Gunslinger for a while before I slimmed my pull list, and I was enjoying that. I mean, the action and well drawn, well designed characters. It was, and plus the price point on those books. I mean, we're used to Marvel and DC. The prices are ridiculous, and you could, what were those, $3.99 for the Spawn?
I think it's
so he
$2.99.
priced it down on those.
Yeah, it's like printed to sell, and like here's the
great paper. Great material too.
Great
the
paper,
the cover, everything.
You get like Image, man. Like they really did like they're. I know there's some stores actually E2 comic collector. So this probably also I don't mean to call you out, but like he said that he's the only one that reads Spawn. I know there's stores that don't even have Image as an option. So if you want to add on to the rarity, and I heard it's like a huge amount. It's like a third of the country comic book stores don't have Image, let alone Spawn. So for whatever reason, some stores just don't have it. And I mean, I bought 3 issues of freaking, what was it? I thought I actually I read Ultimate Black Panther, and I thought it was lame. And I thought Ultimate X-Men was like interesting, but I'm not picking up the second issue. So I guess it is whatever you want to read. But for whatever reason, I mean, I'm not gonna argue against the market. $4,000, man, for this book. That is insane.
That is fucking crazy.
And I will not change your mind. I still have yet to watch the HBO animated series, but yeah, for sure.
I've got it saved on my list to watch too, and I haven't. Yeah. Well, that's like Todd McFarlane saying he can't sell a book that's written well and poorly drawn, but he can sell a book that's drawn well and poorly written. So it's I thought the Gunslinger stuff here recently was pretty good, and like I said, I mean, it's a lot of bang for your buck with those with those books. And the people at Michael Baker's he's one of the guys that we know who is a huge Spawn fan.
Yeah, there's Comics Embrace is a huge. I mean, his avatar is freaking Spawn. So, my nephew who doesn't read comic books knows who Spawn is because he plays Fortnite. It's weird. That's signed Todd DVD. That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
He said he couldn't remember ever signing one at that time. That's kind of funny. Do
you still have it though, Bronze Age nerd? Do you still have it, or no?
I wonder if you could send it to CGC and get it examined for like a signature. Real quick, before we get into the next book, I just want to thank everyone. We got 11 live today. It's not the biggest numbers we've had before, but that's all good, man. We got awesome conversation in the chat. Bronze Age nerd coming through with some really good data. I appreciate you. Dak making me feel like the most worthless collector of all time. E2 saying that Spawn is trash, and Cody's never read a Spawn comic before, which I think is hilarious. Yeah, hit that likes button. If you're a first-time viewer, I appreciate you coming through. We're trying to do more giveaways, and we usually do a show on Sunday morning, but with Easter coming up and I'm having family in town, it's just going to be kind of crazy for me. But I do appreciate Brad and Fedora taking time out of their day and joining me on a Friday. I know the East Coast is just awesome this time of year, and so I appreciate you guys taking your day with me. Fedora, I thought I channeled my inner Fedora and thought of you on this one just because of what you told me with your boots on the ground information, with just what I've kind of seen on my own eyes. And I want to say and I've said this before, so it's a repeat offender. When I watched the most recent Miles movie, I didn't give a shit about Miles. I just wanted more Spider-Punk. And I'm just going to say it. ASM number 10, the first Spider-Punk appearance. I think all of these actually in 9.8 are not bad to have. I think all the covers are great. Even that weird 1 in 10 animation one. The Delato's like the big one. I saw it go for $300 the other day, 9.8, which I thought was like, ooh, I would have thought about that at that price range. Obviously, like with cosplay, like he's kind of coming into his own, and I mean, it's possible that I don't think he could overtake Miles, but he could be a really good supplement to Miles, kind of being like a Wolverine, I guess kind of an offshoot of that universe. Southpaw Brad, I'm going to start with you first, man. What do you this is a tough high grade. Do you see a lot of these in back issues when you go hunting, or do you even look out for this book?
I do not. I was into that whole Spider-Verse kick for a while there, and I always looked. It's a book that I think is important, and obviously it has some legs, and people like that character. I think it's someone that they're kind of hurting themselves with the I had heard the last series. I didn't read the last series, and I'm not reading the current series, but I'd heard the writing is not great on.
It's not very good,
you know, and that's unfortunate if true. That's unfortunate because I think there's an opportunity there to really knock it out of the park, and and do something with him. If he has his own animated series or whatever, I think there's a really great opportunity to, if it's done well, for it to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that they don't. Maybe it's a Sony thing. I don't know the legalities of it, but like, there's so many offshoot and I'm not saying I don't like the show, but Echo. I mean, no one knew who Echo was until they made a show about her, and I'm glad they did because that Echo show is fantastic. I mean, I'd probably give like a 7 out of 10. But definitely like that's the grittiness of it, which I think like he's kind of gritty, right? In a way, he's not like. The story about him is not gritty, but he's like kind of that gritty kind of character, like kind of does his own thing, which I think is really cool. Fedora, man, I know this is like one of your favorite characters. You've actually picked his like books as like kind of our spec. Not this book specifically, but that 1 in 50 or 100, the yellow cover, Takashi, whatsoever.
Okazaki.
Yeah, you like that book for sure, right?
Yeah, I think that one was that one for me was like it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Because before I started working at the comic shop, I had picked it up and I had paid $40, and I was like, oh, $40 for 1 in 50, that doesn't sound that bad. So I had bought it, and then the market was kind of going crazy for it because people were flipping it on eBay for like 150, and all my friends were like, yo, if you have it, you should just get rid of it. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, this new Spider-Man movie is coming out. I read the first issue of the Spider-Punk book, and I actually thought it was really cool because if most people don't know, I used to play bass for an alternative pop punk band.
Yeah.
Way back when I was younger. So I was my first show was at CBGB's in NYC in 2004 when I was like a kid. So, the punk lifestyle is something that I've always was drawn to as a kid. So I like everybody has their own Spider-Man that resonates with them, and I just feel like Spider-Punk is the one that I resonate with the most. So
yeah,
it was a no-brainer, and I thought that, hey, if he shows up in the Spider-Verse movie, I should probably hold on to it. I didn't expect him to be as big as he was. So yeah, you should definitely buy this book because when that movie hit, every single kid, every single teenager was coming into the shop. Oh, do you have Spider-Punk? Do you have Spider-Punk? Do you have Spider-Punk? And we sold out of all our trades in like a week.
Yeah.
So, it's people want to know who he is, and I don't think the second series was garbage. Like the new one wasn't good. But I don't really think that hurts his stock as a character so long as the next movie is good.
Mhm.
And I just kind of think that second series was kind of rushed out. It's kind of like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like
Yeah, it's
or
go ahead, go ahead.
you can. No, I was just gonna say like they kind of it felt like they just kind of threw that out there because they
Mhm.
needed something for like the Spider-Punk fans.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The thing about that series was like I thought the art was cool, and I'm not really into that type of art for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, man, I tried, and that was kind of like when I stopped specking on like FOC crap, and I was like, holy shit, like this is this is 2009. Like I can feel it. Maybe not as bad as 2009, but like I just felt like it's over. It's gonna end soon. Um, but 8 Billion Genies was kind of my. I always think of like what the book was that like kind of reminds me of like the start or the last book that I spec'd on, and 8 Billion Genies was like the last one. I was like, yeah, I'm done after this. I don't care if I made the wrong prediction, but I just feel that it's time. And that was kind of around the time that Spider-Punk show came out or book came out. But good stuff, guys. Playing pretty safe with this one. This was kind of a 50-50 one for me, but like I was thinking the other day of like, what are my top 5 PlayStation video games? And I'm always gonna say, I mean, this is the reason the channel started. Final Fantasy VII is my number one. No one's ever gonna, ever going to top that game. Resident Evil, Gran Turismo, Metal Gear Solid, and Madden. Those are probably my top 5 PlayStation games. But when I think of like the golden age of video games, I know Atari is like the OG and like there's those, but like there weren't really characters that you like resonated with. Nintendo is the golden age for video games. I mean, I think it just has to be. Oh, we got some new peeps in the chat. What's up, Spider Guy Murph? And Brian LCS, who probably is also out on his porch enjoying a beautiful South Carolina day. That's just awesome. Thanks for joining it. Thanks for joining, Brian. But I thought of like, okay, again, this is a reiteration. Yeah, I'm just spewing the same thing over again. But if I put up this book in my, in my house, everyone's gonna know what Zelda is. And here's the other thing. I think out of all the books that I've chosen today, or that we're going over today, this one probably has the most potential for future eyes to go back on it. Because I would say that the greatest video game ever is Ocarina of Time, or for me, I would say the greatest game other than Final Fantasy, the greatest Nintendo game, and on some people's list is Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. I think this would look so good in a high grade. Contra! Oh my god, Brad. Sorry, Contra. Damn. Yes, Contra. Yes, yes. They made a Contra movie, that would be sick. But Aliens is basically Contra. But yeah, I just think this would be sick if you had this like next to either Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past, the original Zelda, OG Zelda, or my favorite, Breath of the Wild, which arguably is the best game that's come out in the past 20 years, I would say. Some people say that Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game ever. You guys know how much I love video game collecting. Our Tuesday show, the Ronin 5, where Dak is part of that group. We're really trying to hinge on those like marquee kind of books. Bronze Age Nerd. My thumbs still do have like I can still feel the
muscle memory
memory of all that stuff, man. I'm gonna start with Brad first because I feel that we're closer in like nostalgic age and whatnot. Man, did you ever see this comic book like in like real time, like when it came out on the shelves? And what was your favorite Zelda game?
I didn't, and I remember the hype around the original.
Yeah,
it was such a big deal, and that's what hits that button for me. But we talked about Mega Man and not not following through. Zelda's definitely one that they've followed through. They've continued to gain momentum with that game and the characters, and so I think they've certainly done a good job, always having something in front of the next generation.
Yeah. I can't think of I think Nintendo in general just does a really good job with that. But like Zelda, more importantly, like they just don't put out like games. They put out like it seems like every other game is like either like better than the last one or like on par. It's amazing how well they've just kept that franchise like going. Oh, thanks, Bronze Age Nerd. It's good seeing you, man. I mean, if you're coming up this, if you're coming to SummerCon, man, we got to meet up and chop it up. Maybe get a selfie together. That'd be cool. I'm fairly certain prototype contra that I've had was from local and that's so cool, dude. You should get that graded, man. Fedora, where'd you go? Oh, Fedora. How big of a Zelda fan are you? I guess I've never asked you that before.
I have a Zelda tattoo. I've played every Zelda game and I finished them.
Okay. Sweet. I'll message you, man. We'll have to meet up for sure. Wait. You have a Zelda tattoo? I know that.
I have the Triforce emblem, like
That's
the
pretty tight.
insignia that they have on the shield.
Yeah. What's your favorite game?
Ocarina of Time, probably. Only because like I just think that like as a whole, it did a lot for gaming. It did a lot for gaming, and I think like it was the first game to get scored a perfect 10 in like magazines, and at that time that was crazy. And when we went from like 2D to 3D, I was young enough to remember the 2D Zeldas.
Yeah.
So when Ocarina of Time came out, that was crazy to me. And it was kind of like open world, but not really.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
And so it was kind of like the first to kind of introduce ideas like open world. You get to kind of have like you kind of customize the character to fit your play style a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
You get to use like certain like different arrows, different weapons. You kind of didn't need to use like a sword all the time. You could use a bow and arrow. You could use all this other stuff. So, but I think that year of gaming, 98, 97, was probably one of the more important years in gaming, in the history of gaming, because you had Mario 64, Legend of Zelda, 007, Final Fantasy 7 came out, Grim Fandango, Resident Evil 2. You had games coming out in between those 2 years that changed the course of gaming forever. So, and I don't really think we've ever seen two, and I'm not just saying this because this is nostalgic. I'm saying this because 97, 98 was probably the biggest year of releases where people were taking risks. They were being innovative. They were really trying to build long-lasting IPs. And we saw the best from Capcom. We saw the best from Nintendo. We saw the best from Squaresoft. We saw everybody on the top of their game, hungry and trying to make a name, trying to carve out or cement their legacy. Even when Lucasfilms was making games, they fucking put out a banger in Grim Fandango. So, yeah, man, I love Zelda. And 97, 98, shout out to those years in gaming.
Dude, the other thing too is like think about the technology that like the money that was being pumped into video game studios because investors were like, oh shit, like there's money in this. Like I don't know what the exact reports, but like I'm sure 25, there a huge percentage of revenue for Sony was leaving like their media or not media, but like their hardware and going into like the sales of these, games. Cause you sell a game for like, you make it costs $5 to make, you sell it for 60. I mean, that hasn't changed like in forever, but yeah, man, you're right. Like, and like, I feel like
just, I don't want to cut you off, but pull up what games came out in the year 97, 98, and you'd see what the fuck I'm talking about. It's insane. Metal Gear Solid came out, I think, in 98. So it's insane. But anyways, continue.
I don't know about that. Now I'm curious. Like Metal Gear Solid 1? Like the
The
PlayStation one?
the PlayStation one.
98. So I mean, like around that time, man. Like I think like I want to say so I was a young 16-year-old in 1998, I think 16, 17. But like my older cousins that were 10 years older than me, they were still playing video games. And so you had this like older brother, older like, sibling, whatever, or like a, relative or friend that you were also playing video games with that was like had money, invested in that it was they weren't buying records anymore, or they weren't spending money on different stuff, and they had more money to spend. So it was just a perfect culmination of that. As far as the price of this goes, 9/8 go for around $1,000. I know there's rumors of like a movie coming out and everything, but I don't really care about that personally. I care about the fact that Zelda is a very strong property. It's a well-loved, character. Everyone knows who it is. And I mean, I don't know how many times I played Breath of the Wild. This is my second time playing it. Pickles has a very famous story that he has. I've never finished Ocarina of Time, but there's a part that he's stuck on. It's something to do with like some waterfall or something, and it takes you like 2 hours to do it. But anyway, I'm looking to sell at ASP if I can find someone with an NES ROM dumper to help me dump the ROM build. Huh, that's kind of cool. And yeah, E2 Comic Collector, he definitely agrees with you. And graphic, I mean, I remember every system just got better and better. And I think it was like kind of an arms race in a way with like graphics and better like video games, because Nintendo was fighting for market share with PlayStation and Genesis.
And the level of marketing that went into those games. Like when I was a kid, I would see advertisements on billboards. I would see it in commercials.
What's up, Renee?
They would give out pamphlets. They were going ham on marketing. Now games don't really feel like a movement anymore. Like when I was seeing advertisements for video games, I felt like, yo, I really need to fucking get this shit. Now it's just like, meh, like, all right, like they put up a bullshit Facebook post, they pay off some reviewers. Not saying that they didn't do that back in the day, but they made it they were marketing those shits like fucking movies back then. Now like they were like it's whatever. But to go back onto the comic, we have that near mint for $200 at the shop.
That's not bad. I mean, if it goes for 5 times the 9.8, I mean that could be. I mean, because I honestly think like if you think of video games as far as collectability and the age of them, like the golden age for video games is original Nintendo games, in my opinion. That's only 40 years ago, which is crazy to think about. And this is kind of the golden age. This is like, you could consider this like the Iron Man of like video games as far as character is concerned. I think I'm the minority here, but I don't understand how people like Zelda games. I've tried playing a few of them, and I'd literally rather watch paint dry. Mojo Quid, you are definitely in the minority here, but I wonder what games do you like? Maybe it's just you just don't like role-playing games like that, or it's not turn-based system. That's for sure. That might be the reason you don't like it. I like Final Fantasy because of the turn-based and kind of the mechanics of it, but no, I mean it's all good if you don't like Zelda. Brad, do you like are you Zelda like, oh man, I gotta get the next Zelda? Like, are you that hyped for it?
I haven't played video games in a while, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. I think I had the original Xbox. That's the last system I've had.
Really? My buddy had
what was the I played it so much. What they
Halo?
red lighted or something, like they would end up like when they went bad, when they died, they would like, I forget what they called it, but the system just died. Like I played it so much, it just died eventually. And at that point I was mostly into like sports games.
Oh, I
was playing like Madden and stuff like that.
Yeah. And like those are like I'm about to get a soccer game for Easter this weekend. I have the kids play in like a round table or whatever. And that those are like the ultimate like good time games, right? The sports games for sure. So we're almost done with our list today. Again, I just want to thank everyone for coming through on a Friday, on Easter weekend, and hit that like button. If you don't subscribe, please subscribe. We're trying to get 600, and appreciate everyone coming through. This isn't a comic book, but I feel like this is like if you're gonna spec on Mario and you're not trying to get like a total gem, but like a definitely like something that's going to be like I would say like an ASM 300 of like video games. Nintendo Power Magazine #1. It's my first appearance of Mario because when I was a kid, I remember seeing him on this magazine and I didn't pick it up because mom and dad said we have to go. We've been in this stupid store too long. I hate this place. It was Toys R Us for all you Gen Z, Gen X kids, or not Gen Z, millennials, and I guess Gen Z a little bit. But anyway, I've seen this go in 7.0 for $400, which I thought was a steal. I've seen this go raw for $100 to $200, which I think is a steal. This is arguably like the first true video game modern magazine. It's this conversation piece again. Like all these choices I've had are, except for the Spawn and maybe the Spider-Man books, I feel like they're all conversation pieces that people know about, and that was one major thing I was thinking about when I was making this list. There's a newsy. Who gives a shit? I think the subscription is just as good. And yeah, man, I said F the grade. Just get it. I've been on the lookout for this. Like Dak probably found it in a quarter bin somewhere, like 15 copies in like near mint or whatever. I'm gonna go to Fedora first on this one. Fedora, do you guys have like Nintendo or like magazines in general at your shop? Like in a different section? I know some comic book stores have that. And two, like
we have magazines, but
okay.
what's your second question?
Do you have like Nintendo Power magazines or like PlayStation magazine?
No.
Damn.
We have like Doctor Who shit. Like I know we have like a lot of horror magazines, like Rue Morgue. Like Rue Morgue is like one of the more popular horror magazines, but I know we definitely do have horror magazines where you see first appearances of the Terrifier and shit like that.
Oh, okay, that's cool spec, man. I like that spec.
Yeah. So, because like you asked me that, now I'm thinking like, oh shit, like, but I know horror magazines we have a lot of because there's like a market for these kinds
There's
of
a
magazines.
huge market. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I buy them regularly and I send them to my friend because she likes horror stuff like that, and then so I when she's in town and we have dinner with like the peeps, like I always give her a stack of horror magazines and she reads them on her off time.
Nice.
But we have magazines. We even carry Mad Magazine, and that Taylor Swift thing was annoying. Like people calling for it all week, bro. It was just like it was annoying. But yeah, we do. I think that the gaming magazines are something that's like really coming up in the game. Because 10 years ago, because I've always collected retro games, because 10 to 12 years ago, I when I first got a job, like a real job, I was still living with my mom, and I was just like, yo, like, I just want to play the games that I wasn't able to afford.
When you're a kid, sure.
Yeah, so I was buying like a lot of like these like hard to find games for like almost nothing. I was buying sealed games and opening them. Like just to put it like that. Like I was buying fucking sealed PlayStation 2 games for fucking nothing and opening them like a fucking maniac. Like so it was a different time. I know now like there's a lot of attention on like gaming being seen as collectibles, which makes sense since physical media is on the decline.
Yeah.
But there was this one place called Video Games New York, and they had a stack of Nintendo Powers. They had a whole section for Nintendo Power. They had like a back issue bin just for gaming magazines. Now, 2024, all that shit's gone.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. So
Well, that's cool. I mean, like it's like obviously like is what it's drying up, but there's still opportunities out there. I know there's like some video game stores that just have like I'll just go into EB Games, GameStop, and I'll just grab their electronic gaming monthly magazine just to have it because I don't want the subscription. I thought this was funny. So yes, I know first Mario technically is on Blip magazine #1, but my first appearance is this Mario. So like this hits nostalgia for me. I don't know what that Blip magazine looks like, but yeah.
Get Blip magazine has some weirdo on the cover playing with an arcade stick.
Oh, is that
he was like a child? He was a child actor back in the day.
Oh, was he?
Oh, it's and like I don't know if it was Dak or somebody else being like, I just can't imagine having that like on my wall looking at me. It just the cover sucks.
What Blip magazine?
It's the one. It's this one. Yeah, I just
bro. I don't know.
I would take like the page that it's on, but I'd have to pay $69 for it. So, which is another kind of interesting kind of perspective with magazines because the market's so weird with that. Fred Savage. Do you know Fred Savage is, Fedora?
I do. He was
okay. You're not that young, then.
Right?
Yeah.
What was he in though?
Wonder Years.
He was in some movie with a jean jacket.
Wonder Years, right?
I don't know. I always remember him with a blue jean jacket.
Oh yeah. That style should never ever die. I love that style. Southpaw.
And he was on an episode of Seinfeld, right?
Who? Fred Savage? I don't know. Maybe.
And Kramer was trying to sell him a treatment. He was trying to like show him like, oh, I think he'd be like really good in the smoothie.
Kramer Seinfeld, the greatest show about nothing.
Man.
It made everyone like think like New York was a crazy place to live or like just the weirdest place to live.
I mean, he's not wrong.
But Dora's like, well, yeah, he's got it right. But yeah. I love New York, man. New York's
to the shop today. Like we had like two crazies come in today, and like there was like one dude. He came in like I'll tell you a story like just real quick. So we had one dude come in today. He's walking around. He's obviously homeless.
Yeah.
And then he's walking around, and it's like we're in New York, so we don't really want to make eye contact with them. So then we see like a stack of like business cards that we have just to give out to people, tourists that come in. Oh, check out our locations. He takes all of them, and then as he's walking out, the manager's like, "Yo, you gotta put that back, man." And then he goes, "Oh, well, you see, this is why you can't have business cards lying around because then people could take them, save the trees." He says some shit, and then he goes, "Well, they should do a Spider-Man musical." And then and then the manager was like, "Well, they already tried that." And then it went from him being a crazy to him and the manager talking about musicals for like 30 minutes. Then he goes, "Well, have a good day." It's
New York, man. I love it. I don't really love it, but yeah, New York's cool, man. I always love New York, man. I'll never have anything bad to say about New York. And now, Brad, I know, like you just told us, like you're not a huge like video game dude. However, like you gotta love Mario, though, right? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
There's some things that like I don't read, but I like Sonic. I'm not a huge Sonic fan, but for whatever reason, like I just want to have Sonic comic books now. What do you think about this, like in any grade, basically? I know it's kind of crazy to say.
Yeah,
but.
Because I mean, we've talked about magazines and the collectability and how new, relatively new it is, and I think the jury's still out. Newsy is cleaner and nicer, I guess, but if you have a subscription that has I think the important thing is to have the subscription label intact.
Mm-hmm.
You see some people try and take them off, and
makes it worse.
And you can still tell. Yeah, you can still tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have it intact, I think it's definitely worth doing. But yeah, I mean, anytime, it made me think about. There's one of my LCSs here in town. They've got a back issue magazine section that I've started kind of looking through, because you
Yeah.
never know when somebody brings in a bunch of stuff they want to sell.
Mm-hmm.
They might drop something like this in one of those things. So I
Yeah.
I looked through it, and this is something I would pick up if I saw it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's a
Do they?
customer.
Does this do like nostalgia for you at all, Brad?
Yeah, I mean it was huge. I mean Mario was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And Sonic, I mean I remember Sonic too. Sonic was huge. I mean that was like Sega's answer, to
Yeah.
all the stuff that Nintendo was doing. So
And the movie was awesome.
yeah. Yeah.
Fedora,
So,
you're gonna say. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that they've another franchise that's done a good job of staying relevant.
Yeah.
For multi-generational.
Yeah,
fans.
decades. Yeah, like decades, and it's like an oligopoly. Everyone can be a fan of Mario, Link, Sonic, and what have you. Anyway, Fedora, you're gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say, yo, that customer that gave me those books, like
Mm-hmm.
those gaming magazines, the Zelda stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. It's still got the stuff intact that Brad was
Oh, no
talking
doubt.
about.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah. I mean, I'd be down for it for sure, man. The magazine market, like obviously we're talking about comic books, and I went a little astray on this one, but when I was thinking about doing the Mario comic book, I felt like, man, like I feel like this resonates more with comic book collectors, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Yeah, again, raw sales of this book, it really depends on the grade, and like I would also this is your little tip here for magazines, right? There might be a buying opportunity for people. CGC grades magazines really tough, and it's almost impossible to get a 9.8. But I think the market doesn't really understand that yet, but they may understand it later down the road. I mean, literally,
Like
I had a win.
might be a 9.8.
Like a 9, it might be like a 9.6, or even like a 9.2 might be like, if you may have to like downgrade 3 grades lower, and 9.8 just might just be like a ghost. I would buy a 7.0 in this for like 250, 300, honestly, in subscription or newsstand. And kind of what Brad was saying earlier, like to me, it doesn't really matter to me about the newsstand or subscription. And I think these were like, there's a shitload of these printed, I want to say, but a shitload of them are thrown out. No one kept magazines of Nintendo Power. I guarantee
They
you.
went through them all the time. They were always looking at them, referencing. It was a reference.
Yeah.
It was reference material. So they were
Yeah,
always looking through them, taking them
Right.
to school, showing their friends. I mean,
in
yeah,
backpacks.
they were worn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Red on the shitter, with water stains on it, or like whatever. Same with strategy guides too, which is another topic that I love too. I know we were talking about Mega Man before, and I just found this kind of last second, but I found this. This is kind of I think you can find this cheap in dollar bins or like just
I have
comic book
that.
stores. You have this, dude. A
Yeah.
9.8 in this book went for $500.
Well, it ain't no 9.8 because I had that when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. So I have a Scotty Young variant. It goes for like 180, 200, and 9.8. I bought it for like $5 in a dollar bin. This is an older book, so you might not find it in the greatest like of condition, but in an okay condition, this sells for 40 to $50 raw. This might be more of a flip, just based off what Fedora said earlier. But I've seen a foil go for $800 in 9.8. The regular version goes for like a $300 less than 9.8, but still, you can get this for like 30 to $40 and get a 9.6, 9.8. I mean, that might be a nice little like investment. I'm gonna kind of parse back on my investment for 3 to 5 years. It might be risky, just again based on what Fedora said and just kind of like whatever. But
And based on them not
IDW,
having their crap together, I mean, if they figured out how to market a good character and have that longevity, then yeah.
I mean, because he was in Super Smash Brothers, and that shows me that they still kind of understand like what they have is like is it's still a powerful brand in their arsenal, but for whatever reason, it just they're like not really all that interested in utilizing him. Like you'll see him in Marvel vs. Capcom, you'll see him in Super Smash Brothers, but outside of that, the only thing that they kind of revive is like things more geared toward like the millennial geared stuff, like NT Warriors got like a collection, or they'll do like the Mega Man anniversary, and that's more toward like Gen X. So it's very niche releases that they do. They haven't done anything major, like a new 3D title that kind of like put a new spin on it, like a story driven Mega Man game. So it's a rough one. Like I don't know. Like I definitely do feel like Mega Man is more of like a millennials character. So that's just me.
Yeah. No, I mean you're good. You make good points that I didn't think of. Right. It's isn't like the list that I put up. It's not law. And that's why we all talk about it and like get like good kind of like and that's why throughout the show like I changed my stance on this one. I think it'd be fun. It'd be cool to find this in a back issue bin. So happy hunting, everyone. And with that said, Fedora 2, like if it's only a segmented market, maybe comic book collectors aren't looking for this as like I could get $500 for it. That's kind of the data I got from it, from what I could find. Yeah. Southpaw. Do you ever see Mega Man comic books in general in your stores that you go to?
I don't know that I've ever really looked for it. But I think, like I was saying earlier, I think it's a cool character that I could see. It looks like someone that kids would like. It's got that
the manga look, right?
Influence. Yeah. I mean, It seems like something they would go for. It's mind boggling that they can't figure out that this would, hey, let's keep this thing rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an example of like, you don't need to like make new characters, just enhance the great ones that you have. I think this isn't like a society thing, but like, I think, this is what I noticed. Something that happened to me during the pandemic when I was flipping books was like, I wasn't ever looking for a great story. I was always looking for the next thing. In baseball prospecting, man, we love our top 100 prospects, but once they make it to the majors, I don't care anymore. We're always looking to the next thing, right? That might be an opportunity for you to kind of like not follow the crowd of trying to find the next thing. It's okay to still do that, but just don't put as much money towards it, food for thought for everybody. And I'm sure you guys all
would be a great, this would be a great book to look for. We have the guy who used to own one of that same LCS that does the magazine back bins, sold his shop, but he's still got a warehouse.
Oh, wow.
Where he has a bunch of comics. And actually a couple months ago, met Brian LCS there. We met and did some digging. He'll open up and do like a warehouse sale. And it's, maybe 100 long boxes. And you just dig till your heart's content. They have short boxes under the tables. You can fill a short box for $75. This would be a great book to keep. These game related comics would be great books to keep an eye out for, and something like that. Where I got a short box full of books for $75, and you got these little gems in there like that people aren't looking for. They're looking for the mainstream stuff,
right? And like look for the last issues too, man. I mean, like just because you don't find Mega Man 1, if you find like Mega Man, I think the 4 is like the last issue of the series. I mean, there's still that low print run, and who knows, maybe they do figure it out later down the road and you're like, oh shit, I was watching Fedora and Southpaw Brad on a Friday before Easter in 2024, and Capcom got acquired by Disney for $1 billion. Ferd was right.
And then they do the Mega Man animated movie, which is not out of the realm of possibility. With where we're going with video game movies, Mario, Sonic, fucking they're trying to do Zelda. Who's to say like some young upstart production company is just like, yo, Capcom, can we use Mega Man?
Dude, fucking Disney.
Yeah,
I'm
who
I'm
knows?
honestly like shocked. Like this is kind of like Sunset to South talk, but like, how the fuck does Disney not buy an independent studio like Image or Skybound or IDW or something like that? It baffles me that they have so much money and they have the ecosystem to do that, and it would just be an easy acquisition for them. It would be perfect for them to do that. Anyway, that's just food for thought.
Yeah, like Fedora was saying, you know, you do an animated series of that, and all of a sudden it blows up. It's not like you're being asked to. There you go. It's not like you're being asked to reinvent the wheel. There's evidence that that works. So it
Mhm.
makes you wonder, like, why? How do you not figure it out? And we've talked about on Sunset and South. We've talked about um, you know, how companies that strive that thrive have typically have really good customer service,
Yeah.
and you know, fast food chains that don't do well, that are always trying to find their niche. And I'm like, you look at Chick-fil-A, I mean, they treat you like you're the most important person in line, and they're efficient, and there's models out there. If you want to do something, there's already models out there to
Yeah.
implement and see. You know, it's not a gamble. It doesn't seem like a gamble to pull the trigger on something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, money talks, right? You know, like if Capcom isn't like doing a correct job and the investors are like, hey, we're bleeding money, or there's not an active investor needs to go in there, and it's not public, so I think you can do that. But yeah, I mean, like I'm just shocked. That might be something that's huge speculation, but I mean, who knows? Maybe Apple's like, yeah, no, we're thinking about buying like a Capcom, or maybe they got enough money to buy Nintendo, or at least like work with them and use their unique properties to like make movies and stuff. I don't know, but yeah. In conclusion, here, just be cautious out there in 2024. I think, or just be cautious in general. I know that's kind of the moniker of like this show and what Brad and I show. You know what we always talk about, and you know, Fedora is always like, he's finding good stuff, man. I mean, like, Fedora, you've been an asset to the show. I don't know what we do without you. You know, boots on the ground, just your picks are just ridiculous, man. Like, I would say Fedora's FO, like new comic book day, or just like 2 months ahead, like picks. He's like the death row of like picks. What I mean by that is like platinum. Just every pick you've had. And it's not like you have to make a pick every week. Just every pick he's had has gone platinum every single time.
Yeah, I don't usually make many picks, but
Yeah, and that's good though. That's the thing. You don't have to act like a venture capitalist. Just hit that one or two. If you're batting 1,000%, it's like you're good to go.
I don't need to make a show and have like 2 live viewers and jerk myself off for like an hour and go, look at me, I'm amazing, I'm amazing. I don't need to break my hand jerking myself off, you know. So I don't know, but the Captain Marvel stuff, I'm off the train. It's too hot. It's too hot.
It's
People
still
know
too
about it
hot,
now.
right?
I'm off.
It's a little too hot. Yeah.
I'm off.
And that's smart,
I got
man.
that one pick, and I'm off. I'm out.
Cody's got a question for you. Are you guys seeing any really deep discount sales at your LCS?
Yes, we do sales very frequently on our website and in store. So usually like every so often, which is very often, we'll have like 20% off. We have 40% off back issues, 25% off graphic novels, and it kind of alternates throughout the week. Maybe it'll be 20% off merchandise. So it's something that happens quite often, just so we can get into the store. But yeah, it happens very often. A lot more often than usual, honestly. No, fuck you.
We all have a good time in the chat. But yeah, you know, Brad, we were kind of talking about it in the beginning, and I kind of messed that up for this last slide. But like, I'm loving the Incredible Hulk run. Avengers Twilight, so far for me, I could say, and I know it's super early, it's not even April yet, but I think Avengers Twilight could potentially be the series of the year for 2024. It's really well written. The art is amazing. There's like shock value. I would say I didn't put this in there, but the Energon universe, Cody, thank you so much for introducing me to that. I just read, what was it, Cobra Commander 3 or 4, the most recent issue. Oh my god, the last page, like every single issue of the Energon universe, like 9 out of 10 of them are like, what the fuck? And it's like it's crazy because you don't really know like what the story is going to be. You just know the characters, right? And they somehow just kind of intertwine with each other. The crazy thing about this Energon universe and the way it's being written is that every like appearance of like a character or like every cliffhanger involves someone that you know. So it hits the nostalgia and it hits the factor of what makes reading comic books so fun. And I'm not specking on the Energon universe. I'm just reading it, man. There's way too many like 1-on-100s to be like, oh, that's the one to get. And I don't think there's really like long-term stuff for it. But man, I'm just enjoying the ride. I don't even really give a shit about like the and it's cheap. It's $3.99 for great reading, great art. It's great reading because at the end of the book, you're like, fuck, it's over. I gotta wait another month, those motherfuckers, but they keep putting out stuff because there's Transformers.
When's the last time you said that too? When's the last time you said that?
This is the closest feeling I've had to the Donny Cates Carnage and Venom run ever I've felt as far as that like happiness feeling of reading a comic book. So but yeah, and Brad, I know you're reading quite a bit of stuff too, and are you liking the new stuff like so far this year, or like you're like, oh, it's okay?
No, I'm really pleased. I'm Hulk, Ghost Rider, Avengers Twilight, the Ultimate stuff, Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm enjoying all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Batman and Detective, I'm still pulling those and enjoy both of those. I just had a thought though. I mean, is anybody hotter than Chip Zdarsky right now? I mean, he's the guy. I mean, he's on top of his game right now.
I can't think of anyone that's hotter than Chip Zdarsky.
No.
Why can't we get him on Spider-Punk? Let's get Zdarsky on Spider-Punk.
I wonder if it's just like, like I remember back in the day they were saying Donny Cates should write Fantastic Four.
Maybe
they asked him and he was like, well, I don't want to write Fantastic Four. And he ended up writing Incredible Hulk instead, right? So maybe it's just you don't want to work on those projects,
Yeah, and thank fucking God. Thank God, bro.
And maybe it's like, I don't know, it'd be cool to be a fly on the wall and understand like why certain writers get certain projects, or like do they get to pick that? Like is it like the music industry or I don't know, whatever industry it is, like where they say, no, we need this is our top property, you need to write this, or you come to me with your idea, we'll pick it from there. I don't know. But Chip Zdarsky's on fire. He can do whatever the hell he wants right now.
He crushed it on Daredevil. I mean, he was the Commander Cody right at the same time.
Yeah,
he crushed it on Daredevil too.
The thing too is like all the writers that are great, like Jeff Lemire, for example, they're stuck in Hollywood, so they're not making much money like in comic books, unfortunately. So I'm glad. I mean, who knows? Chip Zdarsky may eventually go. He may go Hollywood. I mean, the way he writes his books, I mean, it looks that way, right? So, kind of side note real quick. Do you guys know who Mike Miller is?
No.
Basketball player?
No.
You guys remember him? I'm watching his son. His son is a forward for Creighton. Does that make you feel old?
Oh wow.
His son is a sophomore on Creighton.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He's skinnier but can shoot threes just like his dad. But if that doesn't make you feel old, I don't know what does. But
White Chocolate's got a son playing at like Grand Canyon or something like that now.
I know. Grand Canyon University. They almost beat that team in the second round.
Yeah.
But yeah. this Creighton team, man, I got them going to the Final Four, so we'll see how they do. But yeah, that's the show for today. Wow, 2 hours, man. We had a lot to talk about. That was good stuff. I had a lot of comic books to go through, so I apologize for taking everyone's time. But I appreciate Fedora and Southpaw Brad joining us. Fuck Jason. He had to work today because the doors don't fit on the goddamn Boeing airplanes. God damn it. But
wheels
anyway,
falling
Jason's
off and
wheels falling off, and people just on their I don't know if I'm probably gonna get 86th, but like Jason tells me like there's people like they're on the lines, at their computers looking at their phones for like hours while they work. And yeah, it's horrible, man. He literally
let's hope
told
Big
me
Brother's not watching. Let's hope Big Brother's not watching this podcast.
I know. Yeah, either there's gonna be mass layoffs at Boeing because of me, or this will be on my last podcast ever. So
this is gonna be on those like top 10 darkest podcast moments.
Exactly. And if you guys are still needing some comic book content, I know Brian's going today with Ben Stein, but our good friend is currently on right now. I'm gonna peep in on his show. I just put the link in the chat if it goes through. But Brucifer is going on. Kingdom of Nerds, he's going on, and yeah, hope everyone has a great Easter Sunday. Fedora, don't work too hard. I know you got to work this weekend, but
bruh, yeah, I'm gonna be working. My next day off is next Sunday.
Well, I'm sorry, man. We'll try not to work too hard, man. And South Park, Brad, enjoy that beautiful South Carolina weather. It's sunny here in Seattle, but it's fucking cold as hell. And I don't know what to do about it. But you'll have a great weekend. Happy Easter. And I'll put more wigs. I'm looking at the wig market right now, and I'll look for more wigs. And y'all take care. See you guys.
Thanks
again.
guys.